And the data is still getting sent, and we're live. Hello.
10, 9,
0.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
6, 6, 6,
2,
3, 6, 2.
1. Boom. And we're live. Welcome, Muggles. Welcome to the international live stream of the International Geek of Mystery show. I am Bearheart, aka Bill Wyman, and with me here is Rikitty and Kirsten, How I Met Your Mother.
And
this is our evening live stream for, what is this, Wednesday,
my
the 3rd of May, 3 de Mayo, in the year 2023. Did I say it right this time, Ricky?
I believe so.
Okay, cool. Ricky is our resident linguistics expert.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a resident Mexican.
I was not going to say that, but you did. Ricky
like,
is our
like
resident Mexican.
Make it
known. And we're going to talk about streaming and the writers' strike. And I can't really talk about streaming and the writers' strike without talking about TV shows. And
I mean, you could try, but it would be very difficult.
And somebody reminded me that I'm wearing Star Trek shit very close to Star Wars Day. And I pointed out that I always wear Star Trek things on Star Wars Day. And it reminded me of an episode, because we're talking about TV shows anyway, reminded me of an episode of The Big Bang Theory. You guys ever watch The Big Bang Theory?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you know, Will Wheaton plays like a caricature of himself.
Yes.
On that show. And they all go to see.
Meet your heroes, folks.
They all go to see the opening of the latest Star Wars movie, and they're sitting in the theater, and Will Wheaton comes walking in wearing a Starfleet uniform, and you know, making the live long and prosper symbol to everybody. He's completely decked out in Star Trek regalia, and people are like booing him, and yeah. So I've been doing that longer than that, but yeah, Star Wars Day is the 4th, which is tomorrow. May the 4th be with you. Boom, bah. And but you know,
y'all remember
I've always been much more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan. I enjoy the Star Wars movies, but I'm not like a fan. I don't follow the stuff. And I'm very willing to admit that at least 2/3 of those movies are really bad. But you know, I also like to draw the distinction between Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Trek is science fiction and Star Wars is fantasy. And it's fantasy that happens to happen in outer space with spaceships, but there's no science on the show. Star Trek is constantly talking about science. Sometimes it's entirely made up science. Granted, sometimes it's really stupid science. Oh, we could talk about the transporter, maybe later. Hey, Kirsten, make a note that one of these days I want to talk about why the transporter can never happen, and what I think is just completely inexplicable about the entire concept of the transporter.
Do I need to write down those notes, or can I just put
Yeah, write all of those words precisely.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Why it will never work.
You can just write transporter. Why it'll never work, and what's wrong with it in general. Yeah, okay.
Have me sweating.
So, but Big Bang Theory, Star Trek, you'll notice that my name today is Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm actually an OG Star Trek fan. When I was a kid, when the first Star Trek came on, way back in the 60s, I was a kid. We used to watch it. Our house was the only house in the block with a color television. And so, all the neighbors would come over and watch Star Trek with us. And yeah, so I've been a Star Trek fan since the first run of it. Um, and I really, in a lot of ways, I prefer the first series because, I mean, I know that all the special effects and the sets and everything were really cheesy. It was done on a really low budget. Some of the season 3 episodes, they didn't even have budget to build sets. So they would just, put up, literally, they would just put up a wall and like light an empty soundstage weird. I mean, some of it is really, really, very, very low budget, very Dada. And, but the writing was so good. And I'm a writer. I love really, really great writing. And the next generation, um, a lot of those episodes in the first few seasons were just really terrible, embarrassingly bad. I recently started rewatching it again. I haven't gotten, because I skip a lot of episodes that I already know are bad, and then I get, I get distracted watching other things. Like I just finished watching the The Diplomat on Netflix, which was really good, really, really great writing. But I'll go back to it and I'll finish rewatching it at some point. But some of those episodes like Code of Honor is just so bad, and other ones are really bad, but they're like cheesy and enjoyable bad. Like the one, I think it's called the Royale, about this planet that has nothing on it and it's like uninhabitable. But if you like beam through this little itty bitty bit, you get to this a hotel that was recreated from a bad pulp novel. Um, and it's really cheesy, but it's like so much fun to watch. So there's some of that in there too. Probably of the modern Trek, my favorite would be Deep Space Nine, because those last few seasons with the long arc about the Dominion War was really great. But you see, the thing is, and we're gonna get to the subject now. Each of those series, the original series, I had like 30 something episodes per season. The Next Generation, and that whole series of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, each of those series had like 23, 24 episodes per season. And these were, especially that era of Star Trek, they had all those episodes. They hired writers. They would hire writers off of spec scripts, and you never get that anymore. A writer could be sitting at home wishing to become a big name writer, could write a script and send it into them, and they had staff that would read through all of these, and they would pick out the ones they thought were good and give them to the producers. And if the producers thought it was good, they would produce the damn thing, and they would hire the writer and put them on staff. and give them, a career and an income and, enough money to raise a family, right? I mean, not mega riches, not Ferrari, hookers and Coke money, but, enough money to, buy a house, put a couple cars in the garage, picket fence, pets, kids, in that order. And, today with stream, and I gotta add, the music, all of those series, from the Next Generation all the way through Enterprise, they kept half the musicians in Los Angeles working full time for almost 20 years. Every single episode of those of those series had a full original score, 20, 30 minutes of original music, with a full orchestra, like, 20, between 20 and 30 piece orchestra, and every single week. And that is, for studio musicians, that's just unheard of. It put all those people to work for all of that. And again, I mean, I know somebody who was just a studio violinist, and he put his kids through college, playing violin in the, at the Paramount Soundstage. I mean, he also played on movies and a lot of other stuff, but damn, if the Star Trek wasn't his bread and butter, new original score every week for almost 20 years. I mean, there's hiatus in the summer and everything, but, half the year, you got regular work. And for a gigging musician, that's a godsend. Today, they have bigger budgets, and somehow they spend less money. I don't understand it. I mean, okay, they spend a lot of money on the special effects, but they're also, they're I don't understand the economics of it. Today, Star Trek, a Star Trek series has 10 episodes, and it may be 2 years before the next season of it comes around. And a lot of that's because of COVID and a lot of the stuff that's happened. But still, right now, they're talking about the fifth and final season of Star Trek Discovery coming out in 2024. It will have been almost 2 years, or maybe longer, because they're not saying when in 2024. It'll have been 2 years since the previous 10 episodes. And so here's another 10 episodes. And yeah, it's got original music. And, they're going to hire those studio musicians, and they're going to be very grateful for the work. A lot of those musicians were working remote during the pandemic. And, I saw what they were doing. But where you used to have writers writing 24 episodes, and early in earlier decades, 30, 35 episodes of a series, once a year for, as long as the series is on. And now you've got fewer writers writing fewer episodes farther apart. And in years past, when they wrote on those previous series, those series would get syndicated, and the syndication money would be shared amongst the various creators, and the writers would get some of that. And so when you see, Star Trek Next Generation in syndication, on your television set, well, I don't even know if they do that anymore. It's probably just on streaming now. The syndication money would get split amongst the various, creators, the producers, the writers, the actors, all of that. I don't know if the musicians got any of that, but the composer probably did. But they don't get any of the streaming. All that money that the streamers are making, first of all, it's secret. Nobody knows how much money they're making.
Aren't we technically streamers?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. I am keeping you guys on the payroll. But
we don't write anything, so we can't really join the writer's strike.
Well, I don't want you to strike. Please don't strike.
Strike a match, because we're on.
I need you.
fire.
I need you.
That sucked.
So
ignore it.
I heard you.
The streamers, when I talk about the streamers, I'm talking about Netflix, Paramount Plus, HBO, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Stars, I don't know. Those guys, you have to assume they're making money, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And they're spending huge amounts of money just for the rights for some of these properties. And the writers are getting shit. They get, they get paid something for the original work, but they're not getting any back end. Their contracts, don't include any back end from the streaming. And instead of being able to write, for a 24 episode season, they're now writing for a 10 episode season. And so it's less work, it's less money, and it's no back end. And they can't afford to live on that. These are people who, used to be during the, network days and the cable days and the syndication days, used to be able to support a family by doing their craft. And now they're driving for Uber and getting taken advantage of on that end too. And just, struggling to get by. I mean, imagine the breaking point that it would take for people to say, I would rather not work than get treated like this. And, I know that for a lot of those writers, and I know some of them, this is hard time. Most of them are, were hurting before the strike, and now they're looking at, God knows how long before this shit is resolved. And, so that's the story of the streaming and the writers' strike. And it's not just the writers, although, whatever deal is made is going to be with SAG-AFTRA, the writers union. But the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of, I don't know. But, also all the other people that work on those shows, it's the same story. I mean, you've got tradespeople who build the sets. You've got obviously, musicians and composers who write and perform the music. You've got actors, directors, and all the people, the sound effects people, the various artisans. It takes a lot of people to make this magic happen that, that we all enjoy. I mean, we sit here and, I know I'm in this phase where I'm nose down recording, but I can only record for an hour or so at a time before I got to rest my voice. And I'll sit here and I'll have a cup of tea and I'll watch a little, something streaming, and then I'll go back.
Spot of tea.
A spot of tea. A spot of tea, a spot of the old, a cuppa.
Some tea and crumpets.
A cuppa.
This is giving me flashbacks.
That one's for you, Gary.
Chinese food. The takeaway in it.
It was so weird. So, little tangent. I don't know if y'all had a chance to watch the YouTube channel that Amy does.
I saw a little bit of that. I mean, it was hard to tell. It seems like a confederation of a bunch of people.
Yeah, it's like a panel.
There was a million people in those titles. The titles went on for 20 minutes. I mean, but
it was crazy because we just read their comments.
Yeah.
And then getting to hear their voices, it was wild.
Yeah.
It was so wild. Very.
Well, that's nice. Yeah. That's nice. And yeah. Maybe we can work out a way to, do something synergistic, like maybe have them on our thing and they can talk about their thing, and have us on their thing and we can talk about our thing. If they're here and they
have a collaboration in it.
Yeah, I don't know all the lingo that you kids use for this stuff, but make it happen. Yeah. So, this reminds me, and it's not just, it's not obviously not just television writers, although that's the bulk of people's work these days, but it's also films. We're going to have no new content produced over the next few months and for however long this strike lasts. And that will affect us as the consumers. That'll affect us next year. When, like they just announced all these new Star Trek shows. Star Trek fan. This is my shirt has the
It
Enterprise
reminds me of Dude, Where's My Car? Zoltan.
part
I don't know which way is the correct way.
for.
The other way. Yeah.
That is the Zoltan.
Zoltan.
Oh, Zoltan. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I've never seen it, so I don't know what that is. But they've just announced all these new Star Trek shows. I mean, they've announced a bunch of new stuff coming up, in the next year or so, and that ain't going to happen. And it's just going to be, it'll happen. It may happen later. By the time they do it, some of the people, who were going to be involved may not be available. I mean, we don't know. And as consumers, we ought to be concerned about a few things. We should be concerned for the well-being of the people who create the things that we enjoy. So, if you enjoy movies, if you enjoy television, if you enjoy any of these arts, you want the people who create that to be well taken care of, right? This is why we don't pirate, because we want to make sure that the people who create this stuff are well taken care of, and they can continue creating awesome stuff for us, right? And
I don't know who would ever do such a thing.
what's that?
I said exactly. I don't know who would ever do such a thing.
Right. I don't know anybody who would do such a
It's
thing.
giving LimeWire early 2000s.
Yeah. So on a related note, there's a TV show that I enjoy called The Equalizer with Queen Latifah. Apparently, it's based on an earlier TV show with somebody else where it was a guy, and Queen Latifah plays the role as a woman. And there was also apparently a couple of movies, and there's going to be a third movie with Denzel Washington in the role. And I don't know how I had missed this. I love Denzel Washington so much. I don't know how I had missed these first two movies. So I started watching the first one of them today, and it's actually really awesome. He takes this character that should be just like an action character, one of those stoic, I'm going to go and beat people up, but for good causes. And he turns him into this incredibly deep and complex character. And he plays him with, with this dichotomy, this duality of him being incredibly kind and gentle until somebody hurts somebody that he loves, or he doesn't even know, but he was kind to her, and he goes in and he just turns into like incredibly violent, cruel, hard ass, and so he takes this character, and because of his genius as an actor, I mean, the script doesn't hurt, but this is Denzel. He brings it to life so that you can see that there's like this war going on inside of him, and we don't know his backstory, at least not at the part of the, I'm like, half an hour into the movie. But we don't know his backstory at this point, but I'm presuming that he's got like some military background or something where they trained him to kill. And now he's just trying to live a life and, being nice and kind to people. And it's like this war inside of him, but you can like see that in his eyes. All you got to do is look in his eyes and you see that entire story. It is so brilliant. I love Denzel. Anyway, we have a comment.
Yes, we do. From Gary, who is here.
Hey, Gary.
And Amy is also here. Gary says,
hey guys.
Amy says, awesome. I'm so glad that you got to see me on the shills. Thank you. Yeah, it was awesome. We're going to have to do a collaboration.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll leave it up to you guys to work that out. And
follow me on Twitter, so
I will. What's that?
I said I started following Amy on Twitter, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to as well. So send me her info for that, and I will follow her as well. Twitter. I noticed today in the news, Elon Musk has been having this ongoing feud with NPR because I don't know. He claims to be this like nonpartisan centrist, but he is like a couple ticks to the right of Attila the Hun at this point. And he doesn't like NPR because they're, in his eyes, they're very left wing, and in my eyes, they're very centrist. And they have journalistic principles and standards. And anyway, he had labeled their Twitter feed as being like government run or something, and they had a spat about this, and NPR said, okay, well, we're just not going to tweet anymore. And so, because they don't need it, and and it was just becoming a distraction for them, and so they stopped tweeting. And so he came out today and he said, well, if NPR is not going to tweet, I'm just going to give their handle to somebody else. And of course it's trademarked and he can't do that, or if he does, he'll get sued. But it's like, it's so childish, and it's such a distraction. And as a Tesla owner, I just wish he would just stop it and just focus on, fixing the software for my car, which just keeps getting worse and worse. Anyway, that was another tangent. We should just call this the Tangent Show.
I prefer your long-winded intros that are never the same, honestly.
Oh, okay. Okay. The International something or other of something or other show.
The International Introduction of Intro Show.
Yeah, there you go. The International Intro of Geeks of Mysterious Introductions show.
Nailed it.
All right. So what else is going on before I get back to recording?
Well, I don't want to take you away from recording.
Well, that's what I'd be doing if I wasn't sitting here wasting my, not wasting, but using my vocal cords.
No, we
Yes.
could cancel these when you're recording,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Don't fire me.
Who do you think I am, Trump?
What's that?
I said, who do you think I am, Trump?
Yeah, I know.
Fired.
Elon Musk.
Well, yeah, but Elon Musk wasn't famous from saying you're fired.
Yeah. What did we call him? Thanos.
Oh, I thought you meant Elno.
Yeah, well, we called him that too. Actually, I'm going to need to, my throat is going and I'm going to need to rest it for a little bit.
Oh,
and
no.
Get back to recording. So I'm going to call it the 10-minute warning. If we have any more comments or any more thoughts. Anybody have any thoughts about the writer's strike? I mean, do you support unions? Do you support the writers? Do you want to pick a fight with me over this?
I absolutely do not want to fight with you by any means. But I mean, my husband was in the army, so you want to talk about unions?
Yeah, really.
That was an interesting life we lived for sure. And it was so weird because our life wasn't ours.
Yeah.
And so it's being out in the quote unquote real world.
I mean, I have not been in the military. They tried to get me and they failed when I was young enough. And but when I look at the structure of it, it's almost like it has a hint of indentured servitude, right? Yeah. And but they pay you, and they pay you well, I presume, and there's benefits, and although Congress wants to take those away, and there's there's some there's definitely opportunity for advancement if you want that. Mm-hmm. And but there's that piece of it that you're really not free to just quit.
Freedom ain't free.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's that whole piece of it too. I think there's a measure of indoctrination involved. Um, but I mean, in times of in times of actual conflict, and I don't know, did your husband see action?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that could be traumatic, and I mean I can't imagine. I mean I knew some guys who went to Vietnam and came back, and I knew some who didn't come back also. But the ones who came back were never the same. Um, yeah, so yeah. I definitely have mixed feelings about all of that, but but nothing but compassion and support for the men and women who serve. Um, and how does that make you feel about the idea of unions and especially the what's the word for it? The fact that unions can get together and negotiate as a whole,
Yeah,
as
it
opposed
just
to
kind of
individually.
makes me think like it's devastating because I mean, we have our family movie nights, Chase and I have our shows that we consistently watch on a regular basis. Um, and then just having to, I don't know, like worry that they're not going to be there, that there's not going to be anything new. I mean, it's just
Well,
very,
where were you in, what was it, 2006, when the last strike happened?
um, I
You may
was,
have been a teenager.
I was in, probably sixth grade.
So that was like what,
Probably didn't even know what a union was at that
yeah,
point.
that's like 17 years ago. So yeah, okay. I don't think you were in sixth grade, but you might have been.
2006. So what's really cool about my school years, this is off
Oh,
topic.
they line up.
They line up. I was in first grade from 2000 to 2001. Second
I
grade,
see.
2001 to 2002.
Wow,
So the
wow.
year always
Oh, so
ended.
sixth grade is like almost a teenager, I guess.
Yeah, so I think you're like 12,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
12, 13.
Okay, don't give us too much information. We're going to be able to do some math and figure out your age.
Girl, I'm old as fuck. It,
um, so so you don't really remember what that was like. But a lot of shows they didn't have any new material for a long time. A lot of shows they had like a season that just kind of ended in the middle and never got renewed. I mean, shit happened. And I may be getting the year wrong. I could look it up, but I have people who do that for me. Um,
here I go.
I love doing that. um, but yeah. So, but unions in general, do you have any thoughts on, collective bargaining? That's the term, and unions in general.
I'm gonna let Ricky answer this one with the comment that just came in.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, it's not my own opinion. Kitties don't have opinions. This is Gary on YouTube, who says Margaret Thatcher's government saw the unions as a barrier to economic growth and set about breaking them apart.
Right. And what was the results? Because
The result, honestly, was the clubs of Europe absolutely going feral, turning up the day that Margaret Thatcher died, with replacing their bass drops in the club to the British government has now announced that the death of Margaret Thatcher, bass drop, you know what I mean? That's literally what they replaced her with was the announcement of her death. So everyone
Okay.
started saying, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." I mean,
Yeah.
people went
So
ham for that.
yeah, so Margaret Thatcher, I mean, she imposed a lot of, and she got past a lot of these conservative ideals of breaking unions and privatizing and, basically running the government as if it were a business. And we've talked about this on at least one of our podcasts. I don't know if it's been edited and is out in the world yet, but yeah, there are some significant differences between a government and a business. A business has stakeholders and a fiduciary responsibility to turn a profit for the stakeholders. A government has constituents, it has citizens, and its fiduciary responsibility is to provide essential services, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty, right? And that is the imperative of a government, is to take care of the people. And that is, there's a complete dichotomy there. And the whole, Reagan Thatcher conservative movement is about fuck the people. We want to make sure that our money is safe. I mean, honestly. And it's been taken to real extremes since then, since Bush and the Tea Party, and now, the cult of Trump, that and what was that British PM who lasted like 2 weeks recently, and she was
Wasn't her name
nuts.
also Elizabeth, or am I forgetting because she's just
She was completely nuts. I forget her name. Theresa May, was that it? It was something like
you're
that.
right. You're right.
It was something like that. And I mean, she just took it to these outrageous extremes. And but
Nope. Amy has corrected us. Nope. That was Liz Truss. I was right.
Liz Truss, yeah.
Elizabeth. Okay, I was right.
Yeah, Liz Truss. That was her name. Thank you, Amy.
Yep. Thank you,
yeah.
Amy.
That was her name. And oh my God, she was comedy gold. I had so many wonderful memes about her. I was really sad to see her go. But I mean, seriously, she literally crashed the economy in less than a week. I don't remember what the deal was. I followed it at the time and it made sense, but I have since forgotten because I'm not British and I don't have to live with that shit. But we have our own shit to live with. But I also had lots of memes about Brexit because there was one I remember. It was a cat, and somebody asked the cat, what do you think about Brexit? And the cat said, well, I would just keep asking to leave and keep asking to leave and keep asking to leave, and then when they open the door, I would change my mind and I would leave and then come right back in, which is what a cat does. I don't remember it exactly.
I can confirm.
It was very, very silly.
Very much cat energy there.
Anyway, we're out of time, and as you can tell, my voice is going, and I can't really afford to lose my voice tonight. So y'all have a great evening. It's been a lot of fun as usual. We're grateful to all of our followers, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Love you. Bye.